Hello, good morning, Mr. Patil. I'm so sorry to have made you wait today. Uh, this was very complicated. I'll tell you what happened. I'll tell you what happened. What? No. 27. So, I'm live on YouTube and I'll be live on LinkedIn anytime now. I'm just waiting to go live on LinkedIn. Oh, I'm not live on LinkedIn yet. Sorry. Sorry to keep you waiting. Yeah, I apologize. Just one second. Mm-hmm. Boom, 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 boom. Finally, live on LinkedIn as well. Fuck. Give me the new link, man. Got it. Live on LinkedIn as well. Now going 27th episode. Got it. Got it. Finally. Finally. Sorry about this, Mr. Patil. And thank you. And good morning. Good morning for joining. So now we're sorted. And we will begin. It's already late. It's 8:10. So I'll tell you. In secret, nobody will know because only you have joined as of now. It was my hair. It was my hair. I couldn't set my hair up. That was the problem. I was looking very awkward. And I'm very, very conscious in front of the camera. And I'm very awkward in general. So I was like, no, man, this can't happen. So couldn't set my hair. That's why I was late. Good morning. Good morning. And so we will begin. So I hope you can hear me properly. I hope there's no problem as far as my voice is considered. I hope there's no problem. Yes, it's fine. Perfect. I expect my LinkedIn voice to be fine as well. We'll just begin in a minute. It's 8:11. Sorry about the trouble. But we will begin. We will begin. I guess my LinkedIn sound. So, yeah, my hair. That's why I was late. LinkedIn sound is okay. Perfect. Perfect. So let's begin. Yeah? Let's give you the show that you deserve. The show that you deserve. You deserve it. Bum bum bum. Bum 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 bum. Bum 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 bum. Hello everybody. Welcome to Thinker's Frequency. We're having such a good time. This is the peak of human civilization. We're working so hard, doing such good work for ourselves, our parents, our kids, our siblings, our husbands, our wives, our friends, everybody. Well, not other people's husbands and wives, I hope. And just when we thought things couldn't get any better, like they couldn't possibly get any better, well, they just did. Call it divine intervention, folks, but things just got a whole lot better. Now we have Thinker's Frequency, our daily mental workout, our daily dose of insights and analysis which don't lead to paralysis right before we punch in. So let's continue with our journey of reading between the lines things that are especially interesting and important in the world of business and finance. Let's go! And before we go, we've got to follow a tradition. We've got to follow a tradition. You know the tradition, right? The tradition of the simultaneous sip. We're all going to sip something together. It's supposed to be lucky. And all you need for the simultaneous sip is a cup, a mug, a glass, a tank, a chalice, a stein, a canteen jug, a flask, or a vessel of any kind. Pour it with your favorite liquid. Today I'm having water with some black pepper in it. It's supposed to be good for me. And here we go. Oh my god. Oh my god. Beautiful. Soothing. Healing. It has that healing touch. Let's do it again. Beautiful. So nice. So nice. You know what the simultaneous sip says, don't you? The simultaneous sip says that you're not alone. We're in this together. And that's such a beautiful thing to say. I really like the pitching, the new framing of Thinker's Frequency, where I call it the daily mental workout. So, when we are going for a physical work, when you wake up and we go for a physical workout, that's nice, that's cool. But what if we had a mental workout where we just, in the morning before we start our day, we are just listening to and observing and sitting with paper and pen and, uh, calculating the impact of what's going to happen and what's happening, predicting things. That's so nice, right? That's so awesome. The thought of it is actually very, very interesting to me. So let's begin the mental workout for today. Trump steps back and it pacifies the nervous market. So markets are nervous because nobody knows where this Iran and Israel conflict is going. So it's very, very complicated. Why? Because apparently Iran has no chips left, right? If you remember, it began with 600 missiles, then less, then 30 missiles. And the latest attack, there was just 18 missiles or something. So it's probably running out of ammunition. And talks are on about US getting involved as far as an on-ground, the bombing operation of Hafia is considered. So the problem is that the nuclear facility which these people are trying to bomb, there are two ways to do it, right? One way is the bomber approach, and the other way is the on-ground operation approach, right? Where actually Israeli soldiers just go and do it by themselves. Now, both of them are very complicated. Uh, People are in two minds whether the bomber can even do something like this. They said earlier, they said it could be done if implemented correctly. That's a big caveat, right? What do you mean by if implemented correctly? The practicality of that solution is in question. And the second question is Israel going forward with an on-ground operation. The thing is, people are scared that this could lead to something prolonged like the Iraq war, which caused like $3 trillion to US. And if even without chips, if even without any leverage, if Iran refuses to stop with the conflict, where do we go? Are we looking at another Iran because Iraq? Because Iran is a huge country, and you can't just kill. So there was a, an aspect of eliminating the leadership, the Khomeini leadership, right? But the point is, if you eliminate Khomeini, what are you gonna get? The hardest of the hardest replacement of Khomeini. In fact, if you just keep replacing Khomeini like 45 times, the 46th guy will be looking like exactly like Khomeini. The same turban, the white hat, the white beard, the same Islamic radical fundamentalism. So you don't change the regime like that. What you can hope for is there is an internal strife, an internal conflict which leads to a coup. But that cannot happen while the country is under attack. So if the country is getting attacked by Israel, and you can't expect an uprising beginning at that moment, because when a country is getting attacked by another country, there's a lot of you know patriotic fervor which a country deals with. So at that moment, if somebody leads to an uprising and you know, replaces Khamenei, that's clear cut. That won't get any support from the locals. Even though the locals are pro-Western civilization, they might just be pro, you know, America or anything, but they can't support a traitor at the time of war, right? And Iran has said we won't talk till these attacks are on. So there's continuous signaling of willingness to go down the ramp, but nobody is being able to clearly see it happen. However, as Trump stepped back, that we're not gonna, we're evaluating and so on. He just uh, markets came back, markets came back. But you never know what's gonna happen. Things are, at the moment, everybody is buying time. So what that means is there's gonna be a 2 week in 2 weeks a Europe meeting will be happening. So Europe is trying to broker a peace deal. They're trying to bring Iran back to the negotiating table, and Iran is saying to Europe that we cannot negotiate while Israel is attacking us. You know, and that's what's happening. So everybody's buying time, and Iran is suffering. So one official from Iran has said that we are happy to actually consider uh, giving up our nuclear plans, and the other Iran official said that we cannot do that. So very complicated. It should have been over sooner, because looking at rational outcomes, given Iran has no chips, uh, how does it expect to keep fighting on? But there's a Hindi saying on this: "Nang bade Parmeshwar se." If you've got nothing to lose, if you feel you've got nothing to lose, and you fight like you've got nothing to lose, you will not lose, because Nang bade Parmeshwar se, right? Who wins a battle between a crazy guy and a smart guy? The crazy guy always wins. So it's about who is crazier in this space. But anyway, for now, the markets have revived. Markets are very nervous. VIX index is down. VIX is volatility index for Indian stocks. It's down. So, good things. Interestingly, HAL has won an SSLV bid from ISRO. SSLV is the satellite launch vehicle, small satellite launch vehicle. It's a 550 crore project, which they won. There's going to be some tech overhaul, tech transfer and stuff. They're gonna build this together. Good news for HAL. Speaking of very interesting news, there's a very weird battle going on between the Sun TV empire. Do you know about Sun TV empire? It's a very interesting faction. Very interesting story. So Sun TV, I don't know if you know about southern politics. I'm not an expert myself. However, there used to be somebody called Karunanidhi. Okay, he led a party called DMK. So at one point, two people who were very very prominent in the state were Karunanidhi and Jayalalitha, right? So Madam Jayalalitha and Karunanidhi. So this Tamil Nadu DMK empire was the Karunanidhi as patriarch. So Karunanidhi was the patriarch of DMK. Now Karunanidhi had a wife, second wife. It's called Dayalu Ammal. Okay, and then he had a sister, and sister's daughter, sister had two sons. So sister uh, married somebody called Kalanidhi, and he had two sons. Okay, very complicated. Just bear with me. So Karunanidhi has a wife, and whose son is MK Stalin, who's probably the current CM. Yeah, he is scum of the earth. But his sister married Kalnati, and he had two sons. Okay, one is Dayanidhi and one is so this is Maran family. Okay, Mursoli Maran. Now they Kalanidhi founded the Sun TV empire, but it had a lot of patronage from Karunanidhi family, right? The real Karunanidhi family, the direct Karunanidhi family. They had a 50-50% stake or something. Held through Karunanidhi's wife, Dayalu Ammal. So till now it's clear, right? Karunanidhi, wife, sister. Sister's empire is the Sun Empire, which was getting built, but it was built in patronage and with connection with Karunanidhi's political empire. So Karunanidhi's wife was the 50% shareholder in this empire till 2003. Now what happened is, Karunanidhi's these two brothers of Kalanidhi families have started fighting. And what's the fight? One brother says that Kalanidhi, the founder of Sun, bought out their shares, Dayalu Ammal shares, the Karunanidhi family shares for 1.2 crores. And those shares were worth 3,500 crores, he alleges. So he says, you bought 3,500 crore worth shares for 1.2 crores. And that is not fair. You cut out the Karunanidhi family from the Sun TV empire. Now, he is not the stakeholder, so he's not fighting for his own stakes. But he used to be a former MP and he's trying to warm up with the DMK leadership of today. So, what he's trying to do is fighting on behalf of the DMK family with Kalanidhi for Sun TV's empire. So he says that revert the shareholding as it was in 2003. You've got to give it back. You give us the shares back, and you also have to pay for all the damages that we've incurred and the dividends you've earned basis that fraudulent stake transfer. That's what he says. Now, Sun has responded that this is baseless because this happened before the company was listed and this matter is already closed. So there's no, uh, you know, meat to this story. That's what this Sun TV conflict is. How does this sound? Does it sound interesting to you? These kinds of things are crazy, right? How these people essentially work. It's just impressive, very impressive. Anyway, Iran helps India fly out 1,000 students, and those 1,000 students, a lot of them were Kashmiri students. And when they arrived in Delhi, they were given SRTC buses, and they said, "We don't want buses, we want flights." So I don't know if they got flights, but that was funny. Them talking about हमें बिल्कुल भी मन नहीं है बस में जाने का and stuff. It was funny. It was funny at the time. Uh, Moving forward, ECI has issued SOP for EVM memory check mock polls. They say that, right now we have to do mock polls to check the EVMs, Election Commission of India says, and it could cost lower if candidates just opt for diagnosis without mock polls. Mock polls are complicated, expensive, but the candidates say there's no way that we're going to let this pass without mock polls because everything is about election transparency, right? And they deserve that right. If they feel EVMs could be faulty, there is no reason why EVMs shouldn't be checked. So I'm absolutely pro their stance that check it as much as you want, do mock polls and so on and so forth. But that's happening. UAE rule has essentially deterred dodgy crypto deals. So what people used to be doing here was that in India, in Kerala primarily, Kerala is a huge market and it's very connected to the UAE market. So a lot of crypto transactions were then used and cashed in UAE to buy properties and so on and so forth. So it was a money laundering operation where cash used to be paid here, crypto used to be paid here, crypto used to be transferred there, cash used to be withdrawn there, and then real estate and properties used to be bought. So elaborate money laundering operation, which has been, UAE is looking at deterring it by disallowing this in different ways. So what it's trying to do is making sure that all of these things are in disclosures and they cannot buy it and so on and so forth. So people who are doing this say that it'd be hard to regulate this or it'd be hard to catch it because there's still some jurisdictions which are not under this kind of control. But government is catching in. It wants to essentially trap, stop these crypto-led uh, transactions of money laundering. Very interestingly, crypto, the only use case which crypto has been able to showcase as of now has been money laundering. So the real use case which crypto has been able to provide at the moment is just money laundering, right? And as governments get active, as governments try to block this by implementing stricter KYC norms and stuff, I think this use case is gonna come down. So UAE rule in a lane to launder money, the skill to move cryptos to control companies and properties in Dubai has been honed over in the past few years. But treading the alley would soon become tougher. So that's the play. Many UAE developers accept payments in crypto, and IT officials suspect some residents paid in cryptos. Post a big raid, tax officials have become more alert, and new UAE regulations would hurdle such deals. So they are basically implementing a lot of KYC and so on and so forth to make sure that these deals don't go unscathed. You know, so that's what's going on with crypto. Tata Motors is accelerating EV strategy, says Chairman N. Chandrasekharan. He says Tata used to be having 85% market share of the EV play in India, but now it's come down to 50%, I guess. So Tata Motors, yeah, 85% 2 years ago. Now it's down to 50% because Mahindra and other players are catching up. But it says that we have a strong lineup and we'll introduce more cars, and we are very, very looking forward to keeping the leadership position intact. So if you remember, viewers of Thinkers Frequency would know that we discussed talking about Tata's decline in shipments. So while Mahindra picked up, while a lot of people picked up, Tata's EV had a 11% decline year on year, right? So they're accelerating that strategy with a greater lineup of people. And then also, rare earth magnets, he said, right now we have ample amount of stocks, but we'll be looking at this. We'll be monitoring. We'll be thinking about broad range of options. Now, whenever anybody says, they're considering broad range of options, I suddenly laugh. I mean, everybody considers broad range of options. Every morning we wake up and we consider broad range of options. What does it? It's like saying something without saying something, right? But anyway, uh, so US tariffs on UK manufactured vehicles, is supposed to impact JLR. So JLR, Jaguar Land Rover, is a Tata company. Tata had acquired JLR, of course, and that's where Tata's heft comes from. JLR is a huge play. It says if the tariffs had gone to 27%, the impact would have been 1.6 billion pounds. But now the tariffs have come down to 10%, so it's going to be an impact of 600 million pounds for Tata JLR unit, right? So he said it's going to be it's a good news for Tata as far as the overall uh, outlook is considered. It's also talking about participating in the green hydrogen scheme, right? It wants to participate in the e-bus scheme. Tata Motors participation in the government's EV bus programs through direct mobility, also testing 12 hydrogen buses. Mr. N. Chandrasekharan says that hydrogen buses are going to be complicated because they're not going to be easy to manage as far as prices are considered. So it's going to be a little complicated as far as pricing is considered. You cannot expect them to be as economic in the beginning, at least in the near term. And that's fair. That's fair. Bharti has invested 313 crores in Utelstat. So Utelstat is a satcom company, just like Starlink. It's a French company. So Bharti OneWeb and Eutelstat, they had Bharti OneWeb was the largest. Bharti was the largest shareholder in Eutelstat, OneWeb Eutelstat, the merger. Now it's invested, but French shareholding has increased. So Bharti Enterprises will invest 313 crore as a price as a part of French satellite group's fresh 1.3 billion euros capital raising plan. So it's pairing debt and so on and so forth. Earlier, Bharti's stake used to be 30%, 29.9. Now it's come down. It's going to come down to 18.7% with this. So Bharti is going to be a distributor of Starlink, but it's also uh, essentially a major partner in a satcom company called Eutelstat OneWeb. That's why I was surprised when Bharti and Reliance both, especially Bharti Airtel, when it agreed to be distributors of Starlink. I was very surprised. You have your own Eutelstat play. How's that gonna work out? But I guess this was, uh, you know, the political or the influence was huge. Elon Musk, Donald Trump, everything. Tesla is set to, speaking of Elon Musk, Tesla is set to open showrooms in India. So if you guys remember, Tesla was about to start manufacturing in India. It was about to meet India, have a very serious meet where some investments were supposed to be announced and some manufacturing was supposed to be announced. It was supposed to be a huge play. But then what happened, that meeting was cancelled, and Mr. Musk actually went to meet China during the same place. So just imagine, something of global ramifications is happening. Elon Musk is talking to India. He met Modi ji, and he talked about, yes, I'm interested in setting up things up in India and so on and so forth. Everybody's great. They invite Elon Musk for a serious meeting. That meeting gets cancelled, and then instead he goes to China to meet. So Chinese influence, and viewers of Thinkers Frequency would know that I've talked about how the Chinese car market, which is the largest car market in the world, is influencing a lot of these car makers' decisions, right? So Tesla has a very big manufacturing in China. In fact, it's gonna sell Chinese-made cars in India, and it's gonna be 170% tariff on it. Build cars, and it's gonna be expensive, some $40,000, $40,000. No, it's gonna be a $56,000 car, right? So it was supposed to be a 27 lakh car. Cars were declared at 27 lakhs and attracted more than 21 lakh in import duties, 70% tariffs. So it's going to be a $40,000 car. $40,000 is like 35 lakhs. So that's what's going to happen with Tesla. We're going to see a 35 lakh Tesla on Indian roads very soon. So that's interesting, and that's also sad. It would have been so nice if Tesla actually chose to manufacture in India. It's sad that it couldn't come to be, because uh, that would have really given a fillip. But as we discussed, China has a market of 3.3 crore cars in a year. India sold 40 lakh cars, and so it basically has a lot of influence as far as where the money goes. Too bad for us. Too bad for Tesla, actually. Make My Trip has is raising $3.1 billion to reduce C-Trip stake. We talked about it. Viewers of Thinkers Frequency would remember that Make My Trip, Mr. Pitti from Ease My Trip, the competitor of Make My Trip, said that Make My Trip is essentially a Chinese company. A lot of board members are Chinese, and we ought to cut the Chinese influence in something like travel and tourism, which is such a big thing. Following that rhetoric, Make My Trip actually decided to cut Trip.com's stake. Trip.com is an illusion. Trip.com was actually C-Trip, and C-Trip was essentially China Trip, Chinese Trip. One second, C-Trip Wikipedia. So I'm Shanghai, China, C-Trip International as C-Trip. So you can expect Uh, Remote work, yeah. So trip.com is C-Trip. C-Trip is China connection. So that they had some 45% stake, you know, on in Make My Trip, and that's gonna come down to 18%, or let's say 19.9%. The Chinese company, all thanks to the rhetoric of Mr. Pitti. $3 billion raise is the largest raise that Make My Trip has ever done. It's gonna be huge. We discussed how they're planning it, right? Uh, some equity, a lot of debt, and so on and so forth. So, foreign income filing up 45% on CBDT review. So, foreign income filing is getting up. What that means is Indian nationals who are earning money in India, they are starting to disclose their foreign assets and foreign income voluntarily, because the Central Board of Direct Taxes is incentivizing these people. It's a carrot and stick play. They want these people to disclose their foreign earnings, and it has seen an increase of 45.2%. So, uh, data received from Switzerland and other countries under agreement on exchange of information led to 45% year on year increase in taxpayers reporting foreign assets. So 24,000 taxpayers reviewed their income tax return, and so on and so forth. 5,483 filed their belated return for assessment year, reporting foreign assets valued at 29,000 crores. 29,000 crores is more than $3 billion, right? $3.5 billion. So that's all. That's nice. ISRO Coffee Board tie up to assess carbon footprint. So viewers of Thinkers Frequency would remember we talked about Euro imposing some norms on India. So you remember, right? Let's recall that we talked about this. Europe, the FTA, they wanted some norms as far as Indian exports were considered. One was the antibiotic thing in the livestock. They wanted clear, regulated stance on how much of antibiotics is going in as far as this livestock is considered. That was number one. Number two was the recyclable plastics, right? They didn't want that. And I mean, they wanted reusable plastics and so on and so forth for packaging. And third, single use plastics. They didn't want single use plastic. And third was the deforestation, right? They didn't want uh, to buy things which have grazed forests after 2020. So this was a serious bone of contention between India and Europe, because India saw this as just plain harassment for limiting their exports. But Europe said, no, this is not harassment. This is what we want to do. So Indian Space Research Organization, ISRO, it has tied up with Coffee Board to assess the carbon footprint of the coffee plantations. You know, so they are trying to measure the carbon footprint of this coffee crop and how it's going forward, and what kind of land it's coming from, so that these things can be later uh, disclosed and reported to EU. So I'll just report it. Indian Space ISRO is helping Coffee Board of India to quantify the carbon footprint of coffee and assess carbon sequestration potential of the crop. Collaborative studies have been initiated to quantify carbon sequestration in shaded coffee plantations. The aim is to quantify carbon footprint of coffee in the backdrop of EU's deforestation regulation, which requires firms to ensure the products exported to EU have grown on land which has not been deforested. So exactly what I told you. So once again, if you remember, I said most business decisions are outcomes of political will, right? Once again, speaking of things that have proved right, I told you yesterday that Hero Motocorp share could actually suffer, right? Even because of the ABS thing. If you remember, do you remember that? Hero Motocorp share, I told you about, it should hurt the two-wheeler companies, but especially Hero Motocorp. If you just go to yesterday's episode, you'll find out. I said that, and that's exactly what happened. So that news came out, and Bajaj didn't go down. Bajaj was, you know, uh, Bajaj Bajaj went down 1.7%. TVS went up, and Hero went down. So TVS didn't fall as much as Hero. Hero went down. So two-wheeler markets were supposed to get heated up, and that's what happened. So, but please don't report me to SEBI, right? It's just thinking. We are only thinking. Moving on. A smaller provisions hike, no big worry for banks and NBFCs. So this is slightly complicated, but very interesting. So I'll just explain it. Uh, there's a sense of provisioning as far as these real estate projects is considered, right? Provisioning is the amount the bank has to set aside to ensure that, to cushion a possible loss, right? A cushion, a delay, a cushion, whatever. So earlier, the RBI guideline was actually looking at a recommendation of increasing provisions to 5%. And that was huge. So that would have been devastating for banks and NBFCs if they were forced to have like 5% provisioning for these projects. But yesterday, as we read, the provisioning didn't go as much, right? It was zero point 0.4 to 1% or something. So that has given a good breather to banks and NBFCs, because they say that, okay, this is not hard. So the provisioning stays low. It becomes a good news for the banks and for NBFCs. So that's how it works, right? The banks are forced, or it's, let's say, regulated to ensure that safety in the process is intact. SEBI has approved Tata Capital's confidential IPO bid, DRHP, and it's a $2 billion bid. That's pretty amazing. HDB's, there's some funny business going on with HDB. So HDB is going to list, and people who had bought pre-IPO shares of HDB, that's HDFC's NBFC unit, they are seeing a decline in the price because HDB's business is coinciding with HDFC's business, which is leading to a lot of regulatory flair, to which HDB's representative CEO has said that we're going to tweak the business model, the customer acquisition strategy, and we're not going to be doing anything which is not supposed to be done, right? Which has led to some 40% lower pricing of HDB's IPO debut, which has led to some loss, a lot of loss actually, for people who had bought the shares in the unlisted market. So they were expecting a pop, but that pop has gone down, and it's a 40% decline from where they are. And they don't expect the IPO to be doing very well now, so it's going to be a money loss. That's okay. You lose some, you win some, right? Masayoshi Son has pitched $1 trillion AI hub in Arizona. He has pitched this $1 trillion AI hub to Team Trump. He's inviting Nvidia, TSMC, Team Trump to actually set it up. He says this is going to be the most ambitious project of my life, and which is interesting because Mr. Masa has held so many ambitious bet the house kind of projects, right? It's fascinating. If you want to read a book about Masa, which is the best book about SoftBank and about the ambitious projects which Masa has taken over in his time. So Masa began SoftBank, right, as a software bank. So he was earlier a distributor of Microsoft in Japan. So being a distributor of Microsoft in Japan, he made a killing. Then he essentially brought Yahoo to Japan, which was another big of his investments. Jerry Yang, Yahoo was essentially internet before Google. So that was a great bet. And Yahoo Japan worked, even though Yahoo, the core company, fell. Then he essentially invested in Alibaba, which turned out to be an extraordinary bet. So Alibaba proved to be the investment of all investments, you know. Then moving on from Alibaba, he started this Vision Fund, which invested in a lot of companies, which didn't work. However, that Vision Fund aside, a lot of companies, the telecom company which SoftBank had in US, it was divested, and then Vision Fund 2 got formed, and Vision Fund didn't work. Vision Fund 2 didn't work. However, uh, because of the WeWork and every, it ruined the Indian startup ecosystem as well with all the bad money. But he made a comeback, and with the OpenAI investment, and now it's looking at a $1 trillion, you know. So the book which you could read for an insight, which is a fascinating insight, the kind of deals that book explained was just insane. It's called The Money Trap by Alok Sama sir. And if you want to watch a podcast episode of it, around it with Mr. Sama, I have actually interviewed him. You can go and check it out. Mr. Alok Sama was the ex-president of SoftBank International. He was the CFO of SoftBank Group. He was actually working directly with Masa, the richest man of the world at one point. So it was a fascinating conversation for me. Very nice. I was terrific, right? So you can watch it, or you could read the book Money Trap. So we've already discussed Iran saying no to nuclear attacks. Rupee gains something. Bum, bum, bum. Bum, bum, bum. Bum, bum. EU has moved to bar China from medtech deals. So EU has said that there's going to be a limit to how much China. The European Union banned Chinese firms for government medical device purchases worth more than 5 million euros. So they say that we're not gonna do this. China says that Europe claims to be an open market, but they are turning protectionists. Whenever China says anything like that, I just can't believe how shameless can somebody be, man. China as a country has essentially grown on protectionism. You know, it got the world's manufacturing, but it didn't give the internet economy to anybody. It stole IP. It Starting a business in China is extremely hard. You need government ownership, everything. No China, they essentially stole intellectual property, everything, and yet, and they essentially rule the world now because of all the protectionism that they had for their country and their economy, while also ripping every other country off through debt traps and through devaluation of its currency, killing their trade, killing their exports, essentially ruling the world. Now they have everything, from pharma to electric vehicles to rare earths to everything, right? Solar. So just get a load of this. Chinese solar uh, power generation in a few years, by 2030, I guess, is gonna be just solar, is gonna be 3 times or more than US entire power supply. So Chinese solar is so huge that it's gonna eclipse the entire US power supply. Just solar, you know. And they have the battery ecosystem, they have everything. Yet they can claim that, okay, you guys are protectionists. That's what did I say about Nang Bade Parmeshwar se, right? So that's how it's. Shamelessness is a big virtue. And that's about it. That's what we have today. Slow day for the news business, but I hope you had fun. Uh, Insights and analysis which don't lead to paralysis. Right before we start our day, I hope you have a beautiful day, personally and professionally. I'll see you tomorrow at Thinkers Frequency, the daily mental workout. Bye bye.